It began with a stage, a spotlight, and the slow, deliberate click of designer heels that silenced an entire ballroom. The Reed Gala was an annual spectacle. Power brokers, billionaires, world leaders, even celebrities gathered under 1,000 crystal chandeliers to sip vintage champagne and whisper about the future. And at the center of it all stood Marcus Reed, a man as infamous as he was admired. Cool, unshakable, predatory. He was mid-sentence on stage, unveiling his new AI defense algorithm when the interruption happened. "Fascinating, Marcus," came the voice. "Clear, sharp, and laced with venom. But perhaps your investors should know it's all built on stolen code." The audience froze. Willow Hart stepped into the spotlight, wearing black like a blade. Her posture regal, her voice calculated. She didn't need permission. She never asked for it. Not since the day Marcus Reed humiliated her family and gutted the company her grandfather built from the ground up. Gasps swept the room like a gust of wind. Flashbulbs popped. Marcus's jaw clenched once, but he didn't flinch. Their eyes locked across the stage, and the world watched two titans of business bare their claws once again. They had history, and it was ugly. 3 years ago, Marcus Reed executed a ruthless, hostile takeover of Hart and Langston, a 70-year-old financial institution revered for its integrity. He didn't blink when the board fell apart. He didn't care when Willow's father, Charles Hart, suffered a heart attack during the final vote. The deal was legal. The damage was permanent. That night, Willow learned a lesson she would never forget. Justice doesn't always come in courtrooms. Sometimes it's personal. So, she sharpened her mind into a weapon, turned down Wall Street's biggest offers, and spent the next 3 years dismantling Marcus's empire, one leak, one lawsuit, one calculated strike at a time. Their feud became tabloid gold. Ice King versus Iron Queen, boardroom bloodbath. Media outlets had a field day tracking their vicious public war. They were invited to the same galas only for the entertainment value of their insults. And yet, beneath the rage, there was something else. A slow-burning, volatile chemistry neither of them would acknowledge. Willow knew it. The way his eyes followed her in every room, the quiet breath he took before responding to her provocations. She hated it, and hated herself more for noticing. Marcus knew it too. The sharp edge of her voice haunted him long after their arguments ended. She was the only woman who made him lose control, the only one who never bowed to him. Still, he would never forgive her. Not after she exposed the offshore shell companies his board had hidden from the SEC. Not after she nearly cost him his empire. They were enemies, publicly, viciously, completely. But, as the world obsessed over their feud, few noticed the deeper stories unraveling behind the curtain. Charles Hart, once a titan of Wall Street, now lived in a quiet mansion on Long Island, surrounded by silent aides, antique whiskey, and regret. His once commanding voice had turned gravelly, his hands unsteady, but his pride remained. Every time Willow visited, he asked about the company, and every time she lied to protect what little dignity he had left. "Tessa's still doing okay?" he asked one morning, his eyes not quite focused. "Yes, Dad," Willow replied, brushing his hand with hers. "She's handling school. You don't have to worry." But Tessa Hart, Willow's younger sister, was not okay. She stayed out of the spotlight, overwhelmed by the public war between her sister and the man who had destroyed their family name. Sensitive and soft-spoken, often played the peacemaker. But Willow could see the cracks forming. "I don't understand why you have to fight him every time," Tessa whispered during one sleepless night. What if you just let it go? Let it go? Willow's laugh was bitter. You don't bury your family's legacy with a thank you note. On the other side of Manhattan, Marcus Reed stood on the 77th floor of his glass fortress, staring at the skyline with cold detachment. His assistant entered. "You have a call from Cassandra Wu?" Marcus barely nodded. Cassandra Wu was the kind of woman who could broker peace between warring nations or burn both sides down for sport. A PR genius, ruthless and brilliant. "The Hart girls struck again," she said with a sigh. "This time at your own party. I'd say she's winning the narrative." "She's winning airtime, Marcus, not power." "Not yet," Cassandra said smoothly. "But perception is profit, and right now, the world loves her. They see her as the underdog. You? You're the storm." Marcus said nothing, because deep down, he didn't mind being the storm. But even he couldn't ignore what was coming. It started as a whisper in tech circles, then exploded. A global cybersecurity breach, billions of records compromised, financial data leaked, governments in chaos. And both Reed Tech and Hart Strategic were named in the fallout. Willow had spent her life safeguarding financial integrity. Marcus had built his empire on technological dominance. Now, both legacies were in flames. An emergency meeting was called. CEOs, senators, global press, and one room neither of them wanted to be in. The confrontation was immediate. "I should have known this would happen. You built your empire on shortcuts and lies." Marcus leaned in. "And you built yours on tears and sentiment. Let me know how that works out for you." But their war was no longer theirs to control. Cassandra Wu stepped forward, expression unreadable. "You two want to survive this?" she asked, her voice ice. "Then listen closely." She laid it out, flawless, brutal logic. "The media already sees you as a volatile duo. What if you became something else? What if you became the solution?" Willow narrowed her eyes. "What are you suggesting?" "A joint venture, merged PR strategy, appearing unified in crisis," Cassandra explained. Then, with deliberate pause, an engagement. Fake, of course. The silence was deafening. "You're out of your mind," Marcus snapped. But Cassandra was already scrolling through projections, investor sentiment, social media charts, political angles. "If you two announce a merger of business and hearts," she said, "you control the story. And that buys us time to find the breach, fix the damage, and stabilize global markets." Willow's lips curled. "You want me to play bride to the man who destroyed my family?" "I want you to win," Cassandra replied. Neither of them noticed the clause Cassandra quietly buried in the merger contract, a legal stipulation requiring the engagement to be visibly and publicly upheld for a minimum of 60 days, with legal penalties if breached. They signed, out of pride, out of desperation, out of mutual loathing. And so the lie began. That night, Marcus stood alone on his rooftop balcony, whiskey in hand. Below him, the city pulsed with light and noise, but for once, it all felt meaningless. He didn't believe in love. He didn't believe in trust. But Willow Hart, she made him feel something dangerously close to both, and that terrified him more than the breach, more than the public, more than the press. Meanwhile, Willow lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how she had gone from avenging her family's legacy to pretending to love the man who had ripped it apart. But as she turned over the fake diamond ring now sitting on her nightstand, one truth echoed louder than anything else. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The press conference was held on the steps of the Federal Trade Tower, flanked by flags, flashing lights, and a sea of murmuring reporters. Willow stood beside Marcus in a sleek ivory blazer dress, her hand resting lightly on his arm like it had always belonged there. It hadn't. Nothing about this arrangement felt natural. Not the way their fingers interlaced when the camera snapped. Not the way he leaned down and whispered, "Smile like you don't hate me," through clenched teeth. Not the way she flashed him one, sharp and lethal. They weren't a couple. They were a Cold War dressed in couture. "Mr. Reed," a reporter called out, "is it true the engagement came as a surprise to your board?" Marcus turned, smile tight. "Some surprises are strategic," Willow added smoothly, "and some are necessary." The press roared with questions, but neither of them flinched. They knew the game. The photos would be everywhere within hours. The enemy engagement of the century. Stock prices began to crawl back up. Investors relaxed. News outlets buzzed. To the public, it looked like a merger of legends. Behind the scenes, it was a high-stakes hostage situation. That night, back at Reed Tower, Cassandra Wu debriefed them in Marcus's penthouse suite, which now doubled as their engagement home for media purposes. "You'll have to move in together," she said, pacing. "At least for now. Weekly press drops, social appearances. Authenticity is everything." "I'm not sharing the home with her," Marcus muttered. Willow arched an eyebrow. "Please, as if I'd sleep under the same roof as you." Cassandra handed them a sleek black folder. "You already agreed to it. Page 17, clause 4.2.2. Willow flipped the pages, eyes narrowing. "Public cohabitation is a clause?" "Legal, binding, non-negotiable," Cassandra said flatly. "Break it, and you trigger a penalty clause worth $70 million each." Silence fell. Then Marcus said darkly, "I hope you don't snore." Willow glared at him. "I hope you choke on your ego." They moved in the next day. The penthouse was sterile, glass and chrome, like Marcus himself. Not a single photo on the walls, no color, just cold brilliance. Willow brought 2 suitcases and 1,000 grudges. Marcus made room in one drawer, begrudgingly. The first few nights were civil warfare. She played piano at 2 a.m., loud and dramatic. He scheduled conference calls at dawn, pacing shirtless through the living room like she wasn't there. She labeled her food in the fridge, then found it accidentally eaten. He installed fingerprint locks on half the office. She hacked into them by lunchtime. It wasn't love, it was survival. The first public test came days later, a high-profile charity auction at the Metropolitan Museum. Willow wore red, bold, striking, unapologetic. The media swarmed as they stepped from the limousine. Marcus offered his arm. She hesitated, then slipped hers through his. "I could still stab you," she murmured sweetly, smiling for the cameras. "Only if you smile while you do it," he replied. They glided into the gala like fire and ice, perfectly matched in aesthetic and perfectly miserable inside. That was the night they ran into Isla Moretti. Slender, beautiful, and poisonous, Isla had once been Marcus's girlfriend and now helmed a rival AI company backed by none other than Senator Camille Barlow. "Oh, darling," Isla purred, kissing Marcus on the cheek. "Engaged already? You never even introduced me to your little fiancé." Willow's smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's because we try to keep his past mistakes out of polite conversation." Isla blinked, just once, then smiled. "Let's hope he doesn't make another." As they walked away, Willow muttered, "She's in Barlow's pocket." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I know. What aren't you telling me?" Nothing you need to know. Wrong answer. That night, the fight exploded. You're hiding something, she spat, heels clicking across the marble floor. Barlow didn't just exploit your breach, she planned it, and you're letting her. Do you think I'd willingly let my company burn? I think you'd sacrifice anything if it meant keeping your pride intact. Marcus stepped closer, voice low. You don't know a damn thing about me. Willow didn't back down. Then tell me, stop playing the martyr and tell me why you're protecting someone who's clearly pulling the strings. His silence was deafening. She turned away. Forget it, she said bitterly. You don't want a partner, you want a pawn. But that night, Marcus couldn't sleep. Because she was right. There were things he hadn't told her. Things that had kept him up for 3 years. Things that tied both their families together in ways neither of them fully understood. And they were getting closer. Meanwhile, Tessa Hart sat in a quiet cafe downtown, sipping mint tea and pretending not to exist. The world was obsessed with her sister's fake engagement. Headlines, hashtags, fans. She hated it. She just wanted her family whole again, which is why she agreed to meet Dominic Vega, Marcus's enigmatic legal advisor. Tessa had once overheard her father muttering his name in his sleep. She thought it was coincidence until Dominic reached out and offered coffee. You're not safe, he said gently, sliding a file across the table. Tessa opened it. Photos, documents, surveillance logs. What is this? Proof that your father's downfall wasn't just business. Tessa's hands trembled. Dominic leaned in. Willow and Marcus think they know the enemy. They don't. But if they don't find out soon... His voice trailed off. She stared at the file. Her father. The merger. A hidden clause. Senator Barlow's signature. Tessa whispered. This changes everything. Back in the penthouse, Marcus stood at the edge of the balcony, staring down at the city. Willow joined him, arms crossed. Why do you do it? She asked. He didn't look at her. Do what? Live like this, cold, distant, alone. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, because when I was 14, my father was framed for securities fraud, lost everything. My mother disappeared into pills. I promised myself I'd never be powerless again. Willow turned to him. So you became the man who crushed others before they could crush you. He looked at her then, and for the first time, the mask cracked. I never meant to destroy your father, but once it started, I couldn't stop it. Silence fell. Then she whispered, he cried the day he lost the company, not because it was gone, but because he failed us. Marcus closed his eyes. 2 wounded children in grown bodies standing on the ruins of their parents' mistakes. And for the first time since the contract was signed, Willow didn't hate him. Not completely. She reached for his hand. This time, it wasn't for the cameras. The next morning brought no peace, only headlines, and with them, a new kind of chaos. From enemies to lovers, Marcus Reed and Willow Hart spotted holding hands off camera. Reed and Hart share intimate moment on penthouse balcony, real or rehearsed. The kiss is coming. Sources claim engagement party will end in a live proposal. Willow stared at her phone in disbelief. I hate people, she muttered. Marcus, across the kitchen, in nothing but gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt, didn't even look up from his coffee. Then stop feeding them. I didn't feed anyone. You're the one who made our balcony therapy session look like a fairy tale. You held my hand. You were trauma dumping. He finally looked at her, smirking. And yet, you stayed. She wanted to throw a mug at his head. Instead, she grabbed her laptop and marched into the office. This wasn't working. The PR angle was spiraling into something neither of them could control, and with the upcoming Foundation Gala, a major event live-streamed globally, Willow knew that one wrong look, one misstep, could destroy everything they'd clawed back so far. Cassandra Wu, of course, saw it as opportunity. "I want a kiss," she said flatly during the strategy meeting. Willow blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "At the gala, at the end of your speech. A kiss. It'll go viral." Marcus sipped his drink slowly. "Is this before or after we sign away the last shred of our dignity?" "Dignity doesn't pay dividends, but love does. Right now the world wants to believe in you. Give them a reason." Willow shook her head. "You can't script reality. But you can stage it," Cassandra said. "You've already got them hooked. Make them believe." Outside the conference room, Marcus walked beside Willow in silence. The tension between them had shifted. It wasn't hate anymore, not really. It was heavier, unspoken. "You don't have to do the kiss," he said eventually. Willow glanced at him. "I know," but she didn't say no. Because deep down, she wasn't sure anymore where the line was, between performance and truth, between hatred and something far more dangerous. That evening, Willow visited her father. Charles Hart had good days and bad ones. This was one of the bad. He didn't recognize her at first. Then, somewhere between the silence and the sunset, he looked at her and whispered, "I built everything for you. All of it." "I know, Dad." "I tried to fight, tried to stop them, but the moment the ink dried, it was like my soul collapsed." Willow held his hand. "It's not over. I'm fixing it." He blinked slowly. "Be careful. Power doesn't break evenly when it shatters. It cuts." She sat with him until the nurse came, then left with a growing weight in her chest. On the ride back to the penthouse, she got a message. "Unknown number. You're not as smart as you think. You're playing a game rigged from the start." Attached, a photo of her and Marcus on the balcony, zoomed, angled, private. Willow's blood ran cold. Someone was watching them. The next morning, Dominic Vega met Marcus at an underground parking lot, far from surveillance. "I have something," he said, handing over a flash drive. "What am I looking at?" "Communications between Barlow's team and the cybersecurity firm supposedly hired to clean up the breach. She didn't hire them. She funded them. She orchestrated the breach." Marcus clenched his jaw. "And Willow?" "She's in danger. So is her sister." Marcus's fists tightened. "And I pulled her into this." Dominic gave him a hard look. "You didn't pull her. She jumped. You just forgot she's not afraid to burn." Marcus pocketed the drive. "She deserves the truth." "Then tell her before someone else does." But truth, as always, was inconvenient, especially when wrapped in satin and thrown into a ballroom. The Foundation Gala was hosted in a glass-domed hall overlooking the Hudson. Politicians, moguls, celebrities. It was the elite of the elite. Marcus and Willow arrived arm in arm, flawless in black and silver. The cameras loved them. Inside, the tension simmered. Their speech was scheduled for the end of the night, a closing moment, a gesture of unity. And a kiss. Willow's palms were sweating. "Why does this feel bigger than it is?" she whispered to Tessa before the presentation. "Because it is," her sister said gently. "The world's watching, but more than that, you are." Willow stared at her. "What does that mean?"
Tessa smiled. I think you know. Across the room, Marcus was speaking with Senator Barlow. Their exchange was brief, but Willow caught the last line as she approached. Don't forget who owns your past, Marcus, because I can rewrite it anytime. Willow stepped in. That sounds like a threat. Barlow turned, smiling. That's because it is. Then walked away. Willow grabbed Marcus's arm. What is she talking about?
Marcus didn't answer, because at that moment, the lights dimmed. The announcer called their names. It was time. Together they stepped on stage, standing before hundreds of elite guests and millions watching online. Marcus spoke first, measured and commanding. Then Willow, eloquent, heartfelt, unscripted. And at the end, with the world holding its breath, Marcus turned to her, slowly, deliberately, and leaned in. Their lips met in a kiss that wasn't planned, wasn't staged, wasn't rehearsed. It was soft, real, unsteady. A kiss born not of performance, but of something they couldn't name yet. The audience erupted. Cameras flashed. But in that moment, it was just them. Enemies, lovers, and everything in between. The kiss haunted Willow long after the applause died down. Backstage, she could still feel the imprint of Marcus's mouth on hers. Warm, hesitant, real. She tried to blame it on the cameras, on the pressure, on the adrenaline, but none of those excuses held up when she looked him in the eye and saw the same confusion burning behind his mask. Neither of them said a word on the drive home. It was Tessa who broke the silence later that night, curled up on Willow's couch with her laptop open and her eyes wide. You need to see this, Willow groaned, tugging a brush through her hair. If it's another top 10 times Willow and Marcus made us believe in love article, I'll scream. Tessa didn't smile. It's not that. It's worse. She turned the screen, an anonymous blog post, dozens of files, embedded emails, security camera footage, time-stamped documents, all connecting Senator Camille Barlow to the Hart and Langston collapse. Willow's chest constricted. What is this? I got it from Dominic, Tessa whispered. Barlow was working with the old board. They didn't just sell Dad out. They set him up. The breach, the takeover, Marcus may have signed the deal, but Barlow pulled the strings. Willow stared at the screen, the truth cutting deeper than betrayal ever had. Her father didn't just lose, he was sacrificed, and Marcus had never known. She sank into the chair beside Tessa, heart pounding. We need to bring this public. But Tessa hesitated. It's not that simple. Barlow's too powerful. She has dirt on everyone, including Marcus. Her jaw clenched. Then we expose everything, burn it all down. Tessa shook her head. You can't do this alone. Willow looked at her sister, then glanced across the room where Marcus's watch sat on the counter, left behind in haste after the gala. No, she said slowly, but maybe we don't have to. Marcus found her in the office the next morning, standing by the window with the sun streaking across her face and a storm in her eyes. She didn't speak at first, just handed him the drive. What's this? He asked. Proof? He plugged it into the desktop. Files opened, names, dates, surveillance clips, communications between Barlow and the former Hart board, financial trails traced to shell corporations. A quiet sale of Hart and Langston stock, days before Marcus's takeover. Charles Hart's name blacklisted, his health records leaked, his votes coerced. Marcus's face turned to stone. I didn't know, he said softly. I swear to you, Willow, I thought it was clean. Ruthless, but clean. I know, she said. He looked at her. You do? I saw it in your face last night when she threatened you. I've spent years hating you because it was easier than admitting something worse, which is that we were both used. Silence hung thick between them. Then she said, "So now what?" Marcus closed the laptop. "We bring it down, all of it, together. But exposing Barlow would require precision and allies. Enter Dominic Vega. I've secured access to 2 whistleblowers inside Barlow's digital task force. They're willing to testify anonymously, but we need media power, and we need it fast." "Liam Grant," she said grimly. Marcus frowned. "Your ex?" "He's still a shark with a conscience. If we give him an exclusive, he'll run it straight to the Capitol steps." Marcus nodded slowly. "All right, let's dance with the devil." Meeting Liam was like stepping into a minefield. He greeted Willow with a cautious smile. "You really are engaged, huh?" "No," she said firmly. "We're something else." Liam's eyes flicked to Marcus. "Does he know that?" Marcus didn't flinch. "I know she's not yours." The tension simmered, but the story was too big for jealousy. Liam reviewed the files. His smirk faded. Jesus, this could level Barlow's entire campaign. "And," Willow pressed, "I'll run it, but if I go down with it—" "You won't," Marcus said. "We'll protect you. We're not just giving you a leak. We're giving you a revolution." The article dropped 3 days later. Senator Barlow, the power broker behind the Hart collapse. Explosive, detailed, devastating. News spread like wildfire. Stockholders panicked. Barlow denied everything, then went silent. Anonymous sources confirmed the timeline. Public opinion turned. And then came the subpoena. Barlow's empire began to crack. But with pressure came retaliation. That night, Willow's car was tampered with. Brakes cut. A coincidental malfunction prevented disaster. Marcus doubled security. The next morning, Dominic arrived with bruises and a warning. They know. Barlow's people are cornered, and cornered people bite. "Then we bite harder," Marcus growled. Willow stood at the balcony again, heart thundering. This was war. And it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about legacy, about truth, about taking back what was stolen. She looked at Marcus, standing beside her with his sleeves rolled and jaw clenched. No longer a cold-blooded tycoon, but a man who finally understood the cost of silence. And suddenly, everything felt terrifyingly real. The partnership, the proximity, the kiss, the way her heart stuttered whenever he touched her. She turned to him. "You didn't have to fight for me." He met her gaze. "I'm not fighting for you." He stepped closer. "I'm fighting with you." And with that, the final wall between them collapsed, not with fireworks, not with a declaration, but with a kiss. This time, no audience, no cameras, just 2 broken people choosing each other in the middle of a storm. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The calm didn't last long. Barely 48 hours after the article went live, a federal investigation into Senator Barlow's holdings was opened. Subpoenas were issued. Her assets were frozen. But even cornered, Barlow wasn't done playing God. She resurfaced not in court, but in a viral video, one designed to shift public sympathy. She stood before the American flag, flanked by carefully chosen advisors, and painted herself as the victim of a corporate vendetta. And then, with cold precision, she dropped a bomb. Marcus Reed and Willow Hart falsified their engagement for financial gain. It was never love. It was a coordinated effort to manipulate stock prices and deceive investors. I have proof.
A second video played, grainy security footage from weeks ago. Marcus and Willow in a heated argument, words out of context. Willow saying, "It's all fake." Marcus replying, "Let's make them believe it." The media latched on like vultures. Love lies, the Reed and Hart engagement hoax? From power couple to PR scam? Senator Barlow strikes back. In a matter of hours, everything they built, every sliver of public trust, every whisper of legitimacy crumbled. Willow threw her phone across the room. "She turned it all back on us," she spat. "She made us the scandal." Marcus was pacing. "We expected retaliation. We didn't expect this fast." Willow's voice cracked. "She's framing us for the very thing we spent weeks surviving." Then quieter, "I should have never agreed to this." Marcus stopped. "You regret it?" She met his eyes, anger warring with heartbreak. "I regret not knowing where the lie ended and the truth began." For a moment, he didn't speak. Then he stepped closer. "I don't know either, but I know this. When I kissed you at that gala, I wasn't pretending."
Her breath hitched. He continued, "When I held your hand in court, when I watched you defend your father, when you tore into me like no one else ever could, I wasn't pretending." She blinked hard. "I've never been more exposed in my life, Willow. And the terrifying part? I don't want to run." The silence between them stretched long and trembling. Then she whispered, "Neither do I." Outside, the world was tearing them down. But inside, for the first time since this all began, they stood on even ground. Not enemies, not performers, just two people with scars deeper than pride, learning what it meant to trust again. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The Senate Ethics Committee opened a formal inquiry into Senator Barlow's conduct, leaked financial records, intimidation tactics, a forged document trail. She resigned quietly, choosing disgrace over trial. But the damage she'd tried to inflict on Marcus and Willow had already run its course. Investors withdrew, share prices dipped, media vultures circled. And yet, Willow and Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, they stepped into the light together. At a final press conference, Willow stood alone at first, her voice steady. "We never intended to deceive anyone. Yes, our engagement began as strategy, but what grew from it was something neither of us could fake." Then Marcus stepped forward beside her. "We've both been used, broken, made enemies by people who profit from division. But we made a choice, not to let that define us, not anymore." A single reporter raised his hand. "Is the engagement still on?" Willow smiled, then turned to Marcus. He didn't answer with words. He pulled a ring box from his jacket, sleek, unassuming, and very real this time. She blinked, stunned. "This wasn't part of the plan?" "No," he murmured, "but it's the only part I want to be real." There, in front of every camera in the city, Marcus Reed knelt, not for optics, not for strategy, but for her. Willow didn't hesitate. "Yes," she whispered. The crowd erupted, but neither of them heard it. They were too lost in each other. Months later, Reed and Hart became more than just a name. It became a foundation dedicated to ethical tech, financial transparency, and rebuilding legacies tarnished by greed. Willow ran it, with Tessa at her side. Marcus stepped down as CEO. For the first time in his life, he let go of control and found peace in doing so. Dominic and Tessa,
unexpected and quiet, became inseparable. And Liam, he won a Pulitzer, not for the scandal, but for the truth. As for Willow and Marcus, they were never a fairy tale. Too sharp, too scarred, too real. But maybe that was the point. Because in a world built on lies and power plays, they didn't find love in perfection. They found it in the wreckage, in the fire, in each other. And they chose it, not because they had to, but because they could. If this story made your heart race and your soul ache, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful love stories born from betrayal, passion, and redemption. Let us know in the comments, were Marcus and Willow meant to be? Or did they rewrite